Welcome to the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast from Never Too Late Cafe. I'm your host, Laura Womack. Each week, we sit down for a chat with someone just like you, someone who had an idea, a passion, a dream, or sometimes just a thought, and planted that seed, watched it grow into something they wanted to share with the world. If you have an idea for a topic or someone that would be a guest for the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, where you can join our Never Too Late Cafe Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Amy McCorkle. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Laura.
Thank you for joining us. So, Amy has a very long list of accomplishments and things that she's interested in, and we're just going to jump right into your story. So, Amy is a writer. So,
Yes.
What sort of things have you written?
Gosh, just about everything. I started out in subgenre of romance, like fantasy or sci-fi, but it always had an element of a love story. Mm-hmm. And also, but I found that my favorite kind of stuff to write in fiction, at least in the beginning, was romantic suspense or action adventure or something like that. Like, I would say James Bond with a heart. And I know a lot of people hate No Time to Die, but that's like probably one of my favorite movies of the ones he did. But that's another topic for another day. But I got into writing nonfiction quite by accident with Letters to Daniel. I started off as a blog, and it just kind of tumbled from there. I gathered like the greatest hits and did a no production value budget documentary, and then turned it into a book. It was a book, and then it was a documentary, and then on and on. Like, it just kept going. And this documentary, it cost $345. Like, that was everything. That was submission fees, and I just used connections I had in the writing community, because a lot of times you'll find someone who is a writer may also be a screenwriter or a filmmaker or have a connection to someone like that.
Exactly.
And
so, where are you currently based out of?
Shepherdsville, Kentucky, and that is about 10 to 15 miles outside of Louisville.
Okay. Is that where you're from originally?
Yeah, I'm originally from Louisville.
Okay. All right. So, since you mentioned Letters to Daniel, can you tell us a little bit about that story? Because it sounds like it really took off. So, what is the sort of the synopsis of that?
Well, it is the story of how, and when I was about 24, I had a bipolar breakdown, for lack of a better term. I had a severe episode. I didn't have a break with reality, but it was really, really bad, and I could see the road signs from there. Mm-hmm. And it tells that story of breakdown to bestseller through the prism of my friendship with my caregiver and screenwriting partner, Melissa Goodman, and through open letters to my favorite actor, Daniel Craig. So that, and it tells the journey of what a one day at a time recovery with bipolar disorder looks like.
Awesome. So is that how you became a filmmaker, is because of that story?
I initially set out to be a screenwriter. Then as the industry changed, I would go to film markets and stuff and try to be a producer, screenwriter, try to get people attached. And, when you are just a little old girl in Shepherdsville, Kentucky, they don't care. They really don't care. You really have to do something. And if you're a woman, it's doubly hard. So you really do have to create a body of work.
Mm-hmm.
that shows them, oh yeah, she's someone. She is you've got to be a quantifiable commodity, because that's the
Right.
way they look at you. That's not the way I look at myself, but I, you got to, as Missy said, you got to be so good they can't deny you.
Oh, that's a good phrase. So, so then directing, that's a different level as well. So did you direct Letters to Daniel?
Yes, absolutely. I actually have written, there's several short, I've directed about 40 films now, whether they be shorts, whether they be documentaries, whether they be narrative, whether they're proof of concept, music videos, whatever. But Letters to Daniel was my first feature narrative. And yes, I did direct it, and me and Missy produced it. And we actually got a connection to another individual who helped us raise the initial seed money. And our budget was really small. And but by traveling to the festivals, I was able to build the team out of those people that I met there. Mm-hmm. And as the story goes, not because the local scene is bad or, inverted, but I just wasn't known. Mm-hmm. They didn't know me. So as a director, and a lot of people saw me as like a marketing guru because I could get the word out about my stuff. And
that's a skill in itself. So
yeah. And you kind of got to wear a lot of hats,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What I learned is we raised $6,000 and made Letters to Daniel. Mm-hmm. And directing, I had to have people on it because of my bipolar disorder. Look, I'm stable or relatively stable. It's about putting those good days together. When it's cloudy outside, it's no fun. But we shot Letters to Daniel in 6 days, and everybody was all in. And we had people from Oklahoma, we had people from Arkansas, we had people from Tennessee, we had people from Pennsylvania, we had people from West Virginia, we had people from Louisville and Kentucky. I probably already said Tennessee. And our composer is out of Bulgaria. So,
oh my gosh, how did all that come to be?
Well, I went to 2 other festivals other than Imaginarium, and one is called Indie Gathering, and it's still going. It's in Cleveland, Ohio, and I met a lot of actors and a lot of crew there. So my largest crew ever, I had 9 people. That sounds like, oh no, that's not enough people. But to me, that was like an embarrassment of riches because I usually had nobody. So, right. But they also a lot of them wore multiple hats. Like some of them were actors, some of them, did this. And I found my editor and my cinematographer, both with 30 years experience out of AOF when it was still going. So, and their names, and they're just brilliant individuals. Mark Manis is a cinematographer and director and writer in his own right. Same thing with Clint. Clint is like a second generation media kid out of Detroit, but now he makes his living in West Virginia. But his skill set is editing, and is far, like he knows how to edit, like he knows how to direct with an eye to edit, and he had an eye for what I wanted. And so, and same thing with Mark on set. He just gave me all these choices, and I knew I could trust them, Mm-hmm. So and then Missy was on set, and she helped run things as a unit, as a UPM, basically as a line producer. And she's also a big producer, capital P, on it. And and she helped support me. So it's a huge undertaking when you tell your life story. Like, people will go, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Because, I was discriminated against a lot, or I don't like to use the word discriminated. I use the word stigmatized, because
Right.
that's what they're doing. They're assuming things about you, assuming things about the illness. And I had a lot of negative stuff happen. Well, me and Missy had a lot of negative stuff happen to us in San Antonio, Texas, where we lived for a year, where part of the movie takes place.
Wow. So you had mentioned AOF. Can you describe what that is, what AOF stands for, and what that organization is, or the group?
Okay, so they're a film festival, or they were a film festival. They were AOF MegaFest, and the festival founder's name, Del Weston, and his wife's name is Teresa. They have 2 kids. It was like a family-run operation. Like, his sister-in-law helped run it too. And the first year, me and Missy were. For me and her, it was the biggest thing ever, because it was our first California festival where our work was accepted. And it was just our little proof of concept documentary that cost $345 to make. And then we had 5 scripts accepted, and we ended up winning Best New Writer at AOF, and our film won a couple of awards too.
So that's AOF stands for
Action on Film. And what they do is, I feel like what AOF does is, Del was a creative himself, and AOF was born out of a negative experience he had at a film festival that felt like a money grab. And he said, "No, I'm going to make something that's going to celebrate independent creatives, and I'm going to help them, and I'm going to put you out of business." That's what he said. So he created AOF, and it's like 80% would come back with their work. And the first I walk in, it was weird, because I looked at him. I looked over at the stepping room when I called him. He's like, "Oh yeah, baby." He talked like that, that crazy California, "Yeah, baby." And he called everyone beautiful, guys or girls. It was like, beautiful, your work is beautiful, beautiful, But he's a real warm, kind of gregarious. His personality was like a bull in a china shop, fill up the room kind of guy, right? He inspires 2 feelings. Either you absolutely adore him, or you absolutely hate him. There's really no in between. There was no in between with Del. And whenever I first walked onto the mezzanine of the movie theater where they were holding the festival, he was putting up the Step and Repeat, and he walked over to me and gave me a big hug and then he told me all these things. He goes, "I love this film you've brought and your work." And he started telling me and you got to understand, they got 3,000 submissions and screenplays, and even more when it came to film. And he said he could tell me everything about the work I had submitted, whether it was written or a movie. So he really took me under his wing. He was a mentor. I don't want to start crying. So
it sounds as though he's no longer a part of it, because he's...
Well, yeah, the festival is gone because Del passed away.
Okay. So was that part of the, when you were the festival director at the Conquering Disabilities, that was a part of that?
Yes, it was right up to the end. And then we just, whenever he died, he was kind of like the driving force, like the personality behind it. And Teresa, it was really hard for her to kind of keep going on. So we had the rights to our festival. And so Conquering Disabilities with Film takes place in Santa Monica under the umbrella of Ethos. And then also another film that happens concurrently with that is Newsfest, not the New Fest, which is LGBTQ. Not that people don't enter those kind of films into our film festival. It's actually nonfiction. Newsfest is like a nonfiction news story kind of true story festival. That's what it's called, Newsfest True Stories.
Mm-hmm. So, how long have you been interested in writing and directing and filmmaking? It sounds like you've done so much. So, take us back to where it started for you.
Well, when I was 5 years old, I watched, my first big thing was an anime that I loved watching called Battle of the Planets. I was a big fan of the Dukes of Hazzard. I like Chips. I mean, I know like all these shows are really cheesy, and maybe if you look at them in the quality of, they're not literary or they're not
Right.
like, but those were the kind of things I was a fan of. And I knew, and I loved reading. I loved Scott Odell. I loved C.S. Lewis. I loved A Wrinkle in Time. I can't think of the author of that right now, but I loved her books. And I read the Ramona books. I read the Judy Blume books. I read, it's like I was a voracious reader, and I had parents and family members who took me to like the drive-in and stuff like that. And I've known since I was probably 5 years old that I wanted to be an author, a published author. And then I saw the Michael Mann version of Last of the Mohicans with I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's won multiple Oscars. I can't think of his name. He played Hawkeye, and I can name everybody else in the movie, but Daniel Day-Lewis, that's his name. He played the star in that version of Last Mohicans. And also the movie also that spurred me to want to be a director, but I wasn't sure how I was going to get it, given where I was and what my financial situation was the movie Dead Again, directed by Kenneth Branagh and starring Kenneth Branagh, Emma Thompson, Scott Campbell Scott, and Derek Jacobi, and just a lot of, Wayne Knight was also in it. So those movies probably triggered me to like, hey, I want to make movies, and I just didn't know how I was going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, but I ended up taking Dove Simmons' 48-hour film school or workshop. And I also took Michael Haig's screenwriting course, 2 or 3 day screenwriting course. And according to Dove, only he says 2 people from every workshop make a movie. And some of the graduates of his workshop are Quentin Tarantino, Spike Lee, those people. And me and Missy were one of the 2 people or teams that made movies. So, it's like, we did you proud.
So you have awards. Talk about some of your awards. I mean,
okay. So
long.
Yes. I mean, for across our body of work, we have well over 200 awards. I've stopped counting because, I mean, it's like, I don't know if it's 200. I don't know exactly how much, but I know it's over 200. And we got lucky. Well, there's got to be a degree of luck. at that indie gathering, I met a composer named Ricardo Raimondo, and his daughter was a songwriter. And her first song after our story, mine and Missy's story of, recovery and caretaking and stuff, dovetailed with her own story of mental health recovery. And she wrote us an end credit song called Here With Me. And it's on Spotify. It's on Amazon. She had it, and it caught the attention of Warner Music Brazil. And at first, they gave her a distribution deal for the song, but then she has over 1 million streams of that song to her credit. And it actually just won an award at X World. And but the industry award she got was at a place called the Indie Series Awards. It's the 12th annual one. It's put together by Roger Newcomb and Susan Barnhart. And it's a beautiful trophy, but she is in Germany, and it is hard. I am so terrified of shipping that to her because it came to me because they didn't want to ship it internationally.
Oh, okay.
Because it was so expensive. I'll show you but I keep it safely here because I don't want anything to happen to it. I want to give it to her whenever I see her face to face. But this is the award she got.
Wonderful. And so, nice crystal.
Yeah. And
yeah, so I wouldn't want to ship that overseas either.
No. What you call it? She won, but we had another nomination there for Best Original Score. So that was we were so excited. And then we got a distribution deal from Green Apple Entertainment for Letters to Daniel. That film is our most successful film. It's won over 100 awards,
Wonderful.
And it's on Amazon Prime, Roku, Tubi, Freevee, blue-rays.com. Where else? It's going to be on DVD in a couple of months. And it's had 3 theatrical screenings. And it actually getting a screening up in New Jersey at Kevin Smith's theater that he owns with other friends of his, called Smodcastle Cinemas. And it screens July 27th at 8 p.m.
Oh my gosh. That is exciting, all of those things. So tell me, what sort of advice would you give to someone that wants to do what you've done or you're doing, because you're still doing?
Yeah. I would say just start making art, because some people, everybody, there's a different path for everybody. And what I've done is gone to different things. I've utilized social media, contests. There's some that are higher rated than others. I would say just start writing. What do you want to do? Do you want to direct and find that script, or write it? Don't wait for somebody to come around with the perfect script. Write your script if you're an author, or if you're the only thing that separates an author from a writer is the being. You can put your stuff up on Amazon. They've got Draft to Digital. They've got these different avenues you can take. I would say don't wait. The biggest piece of advice I would give is don't wait for someone to give you permission. Don't wait for the perfect moment, because there's no such thing as the perfect moment. Now, if you have resources and can go to film school, or you can go and get an MFA, but I don't have an MFA. I don't have a film school degree. I have a film, film school workshop. You could take workshops or you could take accredited courses, for a cheaper way to go to find out, or read books. I would recommend being a book nerd,
Right.
I'm really a self-taught filmmaker. The way I learned was by doing it. And my first stuff, I wouldn't really want to show to people, but I would still submit it to places because people could watch it and they could say, well, if you do this and if you try this, and if you can keep your ears open to that wisdom that other people have, but don't wait. Biggest piece of advice, don't wait for someone to give you permission to do it. Just start doing it.
Great. So this podcast is called Bloom Where You're Planted. So what does that quote mean to you?
Nourish yourself. Like feed the coffers, water your plant. I've got, even though I have a traumatic past and about a bit of a traumatic adulthood, because it took me about 10 years to get stable, right? But what it means to me is what helped me is, even though I don't really have a relationship with my biological father, my mom married a wonderful man named John Keogh. And even though he's my stepdad, I call him Dad, right? And give love and receive love. That's what Bloom Where You're Planted, because where you start to receive that love, whether it's from you feel it inspiration from watching movies or watching your aunt and uncle sing, trying to go for a record deal that, well, unfortunately, they never got it, but they always played. Even if it was at church, they were always doing something to feed that until they couldn't anymore. And I would say, bloom where you're planted. If you are a storyteller, tell stories. That's how I bloom. Even if it's fan fiction, you start somewhere. That's what bloom where you plant it means. It's where you started, where you're watered. And I live by 3 rules of advice. Don't get it right, get it written, reject rejection, and seat of the pants to the seat of the chair. So, that's why
I love that. For people I just can't find the time. Oh, okay. That's wonderful. So, Amy, it's been a delight to talk to you. And I can tell this is going to be one of those, stay tuned for what Amy's going to do next.
And I was going to say what I'm working on now is, and I am a showrunner. Taken Network has picked up the spinoff anthology series from Letters to Daniel. And so they have made me the showrunner, and I've gotten to build my writer's room.
So can you explain for everyone what a showrunner is?
And you might know them by other titles like executive producer or head writer. It's the person who keeps the story, the flow, the connection of the episodes, and the one who assign. Like sometimes they write the episode, sometimes someone they assign. Like someone will pitch an idea, and then they'll say, "Okay, you write that," but they still have to make sure. A head writer has to make sure it matches up with everything with the show, like keep the Bible straight and stuff like that.
So are you saying that you've been picked up for like a sequence?
I've been picked up for a 12-episode limited anthology series.
Oh my gosh. How did we miss that? That is so exciting.
Yeah. And right now, take the network and me and my writers are putting out a call for true bipolar stories, because we feel like People talk about depression, and maybe there is stigma, but with bipolar disorder, there's more misunderstanding of what the illness really is. Mm-hmm. Because it has so many symptoms and it looks so different on each person.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. Well, that is interesting. So good luck with that as well. Let's stay tuned and let's talk another time about how things are going, because this 12 episode, that sounds so exciting, and you've got a lot of irons in the fire right now. So I want to say thank you for being a guest, and saying bye for now, Amy. And thanks so much again for joining us.
Yeah, of course.
So as our time comes to a close, remember to keep creating, keep sharing, and keep supporting each other. And remember to bloom where you're planted. Bye for now.